Heyo! How's it going, everyone? This is James the Abstract Marcher, back with part 3 of the Most Metal Magic the Gathering artwork series. Let's dive right in with our first piece, which is Braid's Frightful Return by Dominique Mayer. Sweet Mother Teresa on the hood of a Mercedes-Benz! If you all get that reference, leave a dislike, please. Remember in a previous episode when I said Braids is one of the most unhinged characters? This art showcases why. The artwork itself is very bold, in your face, and story-driven with what is being depicted. The brushstrokes are both deliberate and sporadic, between the red, black, and various shades of brown and tan. It is very striking. And given who it is portraying returning to Dominaria, it makes sense, especially since it wound up making every ritualist's head explode. Just, damn, Braids. You certainly know how to make an entrance. The bottom of the piece is the part of the artwork that stands out the most to me, with the unsettling image of Braids just blankly staring. It just really encapsulates Braids as a character and her return. And this makes sense because she literally got freed from her dementia space after being torn apart and put back together endlessly by her own nightmares. Which completely makes sense as to why she's just listlessly staring out into the void. If I had to put a genre to this artwork, this would either have to go into mathcore or symphonic deathcore, in my opinion. Alrighty, we went from zero to real quick with that last one, and sadly buckle up for this next piece, because we're talking about Living Wall by Anson Maddox. Just, what exactly is going on here? Tell us your secrets, Anson. What happened? It's a mass of viscera and teeth and various organs. This is unsettling. This thing, wall, whatever, it looks pathetic, and I can't help but feel sorry for it, but the thing in the middle of the piece looks like a snot bubble from when a kid is crying too much. You all know what I mean. We were all kids at one point in juncture and cried our eyes out too much. You know what I mean. So, what genre do I associate with this wall, if that's what we want to call it? To the chagrin of many, I'm going with grindcore for this one. And in specific, this gives me vibes from Carcass's Reek of Putrefaction album, based just between the artworks, just comparing them side by side. Alright. With those two deeply unnerving and very unsettling images out of the way, still can't get past the wall. Anyways, I think it's time for a palate cleanser, especially for our eyeballs. And the next piece certainly is different compared to what I have discussed before, and that's also going across every episode before this one. The artwork is in green, and it is Barishi by Ted Nafee. This artwork is not a typical metal, but it is very elegant and artistically pleasing to the eye. There are just so many different textures and techniques that Nafee used in this piece to really showcase his talents, as well as his use of Keller and the imagery chosen for this piece. It really brings out the elemental and really just makes it flourish. My favorite part in the artwork is seeing all of the marks in the piece, whether that's paint brushstrokes or knife markings. The scratchy texture really seems to aim towards the figure in the center. As I said, Nathy's color choice for this piece also really captivates me. The purple underneath of Barishi really gives the vibe that Barishi can change night to day and vice versa with this presence, and that kind of is insinuated with the background. And plus, I also really love the trees. I don't know what kind of trees Barishi is made of itself, but they really seem to harken to the kind of aesthetic that this landscape is a part of. In the description of the video, I included the link to the full size of this artwork just because I really don't want to do it a disservice and not be able to showcase its full glory. Because I would have to zoom in a lot to actually showcase a lot of the different aspects of this piece, and I really think people should just see it for themselves. As for a genre for this piece, I can't put one genre for this artwork. I can, however, give some recommendations to African metal bands, such as, I apologize if I butcher any of these names, Arakan Asra Folklore from Togo, Duma from Kenya and Uganda, Last Year's Tragedy from Kenya, and Worst from Botswana, just to name a few bands. In doing research for this video, especially on the history and culture of the scene of metal in Africa, especially amongst the different regions, hopefully North Africa can build a scene in the coming years, but I understand with the political and religious climate of that area, it's been extremely difficult. Next up, we are going to red for a very spicy card, Death Spark by Mark Teeden. And immediately right off the bat, this card gives me Tool vibes. So this is just being put into progressive metal. The three heads sticking up from the lake, or pool of water in a cave, whilst being blasted from the inside out, really is a striking portion of this imagery. Firstly, this is Death Spark is going backwards, and it's basically obliterating you from the inside out. Firstly going through your skeleton, then through the muscular system, and then finally through the soul and the brain and the rest of the body. Just, damn, it really knows how to work itself from the inside out. I also really think the color choice is very interesting and helps shape the aesthetic of the piece. The predominantly blue artwork with the various shades, as well as some hints of oranges and reds, really create a very unique color palette and very interesting piece. Next, we're going to white with Phyrexian Rebirth by Scott Cho. This artwork gives me big Iron Giant vibes, mixed with WALL-E and some horror elements. And I'm very curious to know how much of the junk in the foreground are the bodies of dead workers, like the giant themselves. Because if so, then holy crap. The monochromatic atmosphere, mixed with the jagged metal of the figure in the foreground, give this piece some serenity and peace, but this is the Fair Basilica, so there's no real thing as peace. As for a genre, I'm going to give this to either avant-garde or drone metal. And this is mostly just due to the fact of the atmosphere and environment, along with the imagery in the foreground, as well as the flavor text for the piece.
As long as one drop of the oil exists, the joyous work continues.
And honestly, with that, if you look very closely at the giant with one of its hands, claws, things, whatever. It seems to be inspecting something, so who knows what it found. Alright, so for this final piece, I should have given this for Living Wall too, and I apologize. I'm going to be giving a warning on this one because of how distressing this imagery might be for some people. So, I'm going to give you a timestamp to skip to the end. In case you want to stick around, the last card we're discussing is blue. We are discussing Claustrophobia by Ryan Pancoast. Pun intended with this one. This art is very on the nose, and very much puts a nail in the coffin on it. Personally, I am very slightly claustrophobic. The monotone color palette, the posing of the subject in the coffin, as well as the very faint, noticeable nail scratches in the top of the coffin showcase that the subject has been here for a couple hours maybe a day. Rotating this image 180 degrees doesn't make it any better either. It just showcases how much fear and anger and pain this person is in. And I'm very curious who exactly is in the coffin. It looks like a noble of some sort, but I don't necessarily know who. And I couldn't find anything in the research for this video. And the flavor text definitely is very on point for, being buried alive in a coffin. 6 feet of earth muffled his cries. So, yeah, no, that's completely understandable. As for choosing a genre for this piece, I'm debating giving it to either slam or death metal. On one hand, the desperation and rage in this person's moments, while they're furiously trying to plead their case and get out, makes me think of slam. But in general, being buried alive basically is a death sentence, so it's a tough call. I think it can fit with either or. So, hopefully you enjoyed this third episode of the most metal artwork in Magic the Gathering. If you did, like, share, subscribe, leave a comment, especially if you have a particular artwork that you want me to discuss next. Take care and have a good one. Peace.